last night? You did? No, here in Sfas. No. So, I believe that I took upon myself to start publicizing the end times of Kiddush Levana because I saw no one's doing it. Literally, no one's doing according to all opinions. Some luchos write the end time according to the first opinion, and they don't give you any more information. Other luchos don't write anything. So, for this year, for this month, Adar Beis, L'chatchila, we have until Wednesday night. Okay, the whole Wednesday night. The whole Wednesday night. Zayin, last week, for Sephardim and Chabad. Now that we're in the rainy season, check your weather report, but if you see the moon, say it.
Alone even, right?
Yeah, it's already past Yud. Okay, second chance, if you missed it, you have here in Eretz Yisrael. This is only for Eretz Yisrael. You have the whole Thursday night. You have Thursday night until about 3 o'clock in the morning to say it. Okay?
Oh, so Wednesday?
I said, let's say it Wednesday night. B'diavad, you have until 3 a.m. in Israel, not for diaspora. Diaspora has to do their calculation of hours. In America, it's 7 hours back. So basically, if you count 7 hours back, or California 10 hours back, they're gone. They're finished. Okay. So today we're going to continue Hilchos Purim. We're also going to do Tuesday night's class also on Purim. We're going to have 2 classes on Purim. And last week we began going through the halachas of the Mishloach Manos. We're going to continue it. So the goal for today is we want to go through the mitzvahs of Mishloach Manos, Matanos Levyanim, and Seudas Purim and Adar Yada. And from Tuesday night's class we will go through the halachas of the Tainus Esther. We'll discuss what time the fast starts. Again, and just the actual time. It shouldn't take too long. And of course, the laws of Megillah reading, which is so important. That's the main mitzvah of Purim. So that we're going to do for Tuesday night. Okay. So save the date, as they say. Okay. Last week we discussed that the mitzvah of Mishloach Manos. Right. There's 4 mitzvahs of Purim: Mishloach Manos, Matanos Levyanim, Seudas Purim, and of course Kriyas Megillah twice, once by day and once by night, the night before. So we said regarding Mishloach Manos, right, the basics of the mitzvah we all know is that you need to give 2 matanos, 2 presents to a single individual, whether he's wealthy or poor. In Mishloach Manos, it makes no difference, and 2 reasons we mentioned why this is the case. We said, meaning there's 2 reasons why Mishloach Manos is a mitzvah. Why did the sages in the times of Esther enact this command, this rabbinical command? We brought the reason of the Manes Levi, our indigenous Sfas resident, who states that the reason is because it's for the purpose of increasing Avas Yisrael, friendship. Some people say, I'm not going to give to him. I hate that guy. That's the whole purpose. Give specifically to him. Right? Give specifically to people you don't like in order so you can. Now, God forbid, it shouldn't be turned into that if I get Mishloach Manos, okay, so this guy doesn't like me. So give to everyone, right? That's why we're working on it, right? That's an emotion. Emotions are very difficult to just press a button and turn on and off. We can speak to, right? You know that. You can tell us about that in another class. So that's the Manes Levi. Then we have the Trumas Hadash. It says it's very simple. It's about donating foods to people's meals, so people have an enhanced meal with other people's delicacies. That's the whole purpose. We discussed this in length last week. Those who weren't here, please go back to the recording. We discussed various ramifications and details regarding that mitzvah. We're going to review a few more points that we said last week. We explained that women, in the women's class, we'll discuss this as well in another hour, are obligated to also give Mishloach Manos. Of course, they're obligated in all the mitzvahs of Purim, just like a man. Let's not forget, Esther made the miracle happen. It would be kind of strange if they had some kind of differentiation in the mitzvahs when it's thanks to them we have the holiday. So there is no difference in men and women. And the Magen Avram novelizes that a married woman is to be stringent to send her own Mishloach Manos. So that means all of our wives are to be given money of their own or items of their own, and it's theirs, belongs to them, it's not mine, because ideally in the laws of Kedushin, the laws of marriage, and Ksubas and Even Ezer, anything you own, anything the wife owns is owned by the husband, with some exception. Without getting complex, that's generally the rule. So what's the chiddush if she uses my money to buy Mishloach Manos to give to her friends? In essence, she's giving my money, my Mishloach Manos. So that's why Magen Ram says that she should be acquired, she should be given permission to have money of her own to distribute her personal mishloach manos, and it shouldn't be just included with husband. We discussed last week that you could, add a few things in one big mishloach manos. Some of it's from the wife, some of it's from the husband, and they're both yaitse in that way.
Permission, money that she earned herself, and not
No, she doesn't earn herself.
permission that
Same way you can give someone else's wife $10 as a present, and it's her on condition her husband has no permission to touch it, and then it's hers. So too, you, as the husband, can give her $10 and say, this money is yours, and I have no permission anymore to take this money. Okay? But it doesn't have to be that way. It can just be that you have in mind to be mizah. Whatever she buys for her mishloach manos for her friends, I'm having in mind that that belongs to her, and that's enough. You tell her, she makes a kinyan, that's fine. All family members, even children, are to send their own mishloach manos. We don't say yaitse with the parents. Not to get confused with Chanukah, that some are noihig, as the Sfardim are, and the minhag of Taisvis, that only the father of the home lights the candles. One has nothing to do with the other. We don't connect the two holidays. Mishloach manos, every individual must send. If they're above bar bas mitzvah, and children of the age of chinuch are also to send mishloach manos. We do not send to mourners, but mourners must send to others. Avelim are not patur from mishloach manos. Even if they are within Shiva, they're not patur from mitzvah mishloach manos. They should send it with a shliach. They can't leave their house, of course, but they can go to shul on Purim, so that's another story, so they can give in shul after Shachris, but we do not send to them. We also don't make a trick and send, okay, I'm sending to the family. We all know, this is your friend, he's an avelis, who are you tricking? No one. But if indeed you know the family and there's a family connection and you want to send to the family despite the avelis of the husband or wife, then that is fine to do. We discussed last week, meiser money cannot be used for mishloach manos unless two conditions are fulfilled. Number one, you've sent at least two presents to one individual, not for meiser funds. And two, it is going to a pauper. So if I have 10 aniyim that would like to send mishloach manos to, and I'm budgeting my expenditures, then I can take that off from meiser funds. Before the fact, not after the fact, right? Before.
After only that you give one.
Correct. We discussed last week, we give mishloach manos in the morning after, you can only fulfill the mitzvahs during daytime, okay? Mishloach manos, so this Purim, are only fulfilled during daytime. That means from sunrise to sunset, lechatchila, b'diavad, from aleis hashachar until tzesek echavim. Someone who does the mitzvahs at night, whether it be the night before or the night after, does not fulfill his obligation of the mitzvah. So obviously it has to be sent during the day. When during the day, it should be sent specifically after shachris, in order to, so you grab the shechianu, which we have in mind during the Gila reading, when we say, it's Sfardim who don't say shechianu have to have it in mind the night before, when they say shechianu by Megillah reading. But we say it by day, so we, and Ashkenazim say it by day, so we have in mind the shechianu of daytime, to klub shlach manos, and therefore we can give. So technically a Sephardi, since it's anyone saying shechianu by daytime, he can give it before shachris. Okay.
I don't remember saying Shechianu on Purim when you're.
Yeah, Shechianu by daytime, don't we say Shechianu at night before Megillah?
Correct. We say it at night and also by day.
We answer the
Machlekes Mechaber no. Mechaber says we only say Shechianu at night. How can you say it again by day? You already said Shechianu on the mitzvah. And the Marma argues, say no, we say Shechianu each time. The Alter Rebbe rules like the Mechaber, the Tzemach Tzedek rules like the Rama, and we follow the Rama.
It's when we say amen to the person who's reading the Yillah says that bracha.
Well, when he says, as if we're saying it, right? Whenever he says his brachas, Shemei HaKohen, as if we're saying the brachas. We have to pay attention and listen to each bracha, yeah.
So we say it's best to give Shalach Manos right after Shachris. Is that what you're
Correct,
saying?
yes. Meaning the first mishloach manos should be given right after shachris, yes. Okay. Regarding all these organizations that arrange mishloach manos, you pay the money and they send for you. There is no problem in doing so, even though there's no obligation to send through a messenger. I'm allowed to give mishloach manos directly to a person, and I fulfill my obligation. The idea that it has to be through a shliach is a hiddur, it's a custom, and the custom is we give some through a shliach, we give some on our own, but it definitely is not an invalidating detail of the mitzvah. Even though one of the poskim did want to try to argue that since it says mishloach manos, it has to be sent through a messenger, practically the poskim negated his opinion. And as we've mentioned many times in the rules of ruling in halacha, that just because we found a posuk who says something does not mean that's the way we rule. How do we know how we rule? Well, one of the primary ways is, if this is such an important, crucial detail, why did everyone else not say it? Obviously, they don't hold of it because no one's going to fool the Jewish people, write a book called Shulchan Aruch and their codified laws, and then leave out a very important detail that invalidates the mitzvah. So the fact they didn't write it is the proof that they don't hold of it. They don't have to actually spell it out and negate it, right? People don't have to negate things that they never thought someone would ever think of. So obviously, in this case, the diavad, you definitely feel your obligation, but the minhag is, as is brought down in the Binyan Sin, the Mishnah brings it down, we send through a shliach, so we send some through shliach, some on our own, and the minhag is, as Rabbi Yitzchak Berditchev records, for children to send mishleach manis, that the children send for us, they become our shluchim to mechanech them in mitzvahs. It's recorded in Kedushas Levi, Rabbi Yitzchak Berditchev.
Make your children you can make your child a
And not only can you, says the Kedushas Levi, that is the minhag. It's the minhag. It's a minhag to do in order to mechanech them in mitzvahs for them to send. And so the parents can spend time and keep even kind of their mitzvahs. They have a mitzvah learning Torah, Talmud Torah, Kneged Kulim, right? The mitzvah, you can open up Svarim, learn all about Purim, you can do Miftzayim, read Megillah for others, and other things. So the best thing is, the minhag is we send our children to do so. As I said, these organizations, you just have to be very careful that they send to people that are being Yetzirei Chayva. So here in Eretz Yisrael, or even in the diaspora, you have people coming, and everyone loves donating to Eretz Yisrael, Baruch Hashem, but they don't pay attention that sometimes they said, well, I gave $100 to give 10 baskets of Mishloach Manos in Jerusalem. Now, when does Jerusalem keep Purim? The 15th. Now, can a 14th be Yetze by giving Mishloach Manos to a 15th? You enter into a machlekes. Now, why be Mekayim the mitzvah Mishloach Manos with a machlekes? Be Mekayim the hiddur. So if you want to give it in addition, no problem. But to be Mekayim it as your only one, that is a problem. One should not give to a 15th if he is a 14th, and so too vice versa. Every man for themselves, right? Every community, every city for themselves. Which would mean that a Sephardi in remote who is reading Megillah and keeping Purim on the 14th may not give it to an Ashkenazi friend who's keeping it on the 15th. So they have to find a fellow Sephardi to give Mishloach Manos to. It's the only holiday that we have this concept of this politics of when, politics halacha, right? Different rulings of halacha of when to keep Purim. Just imagine like Pesach. Oh, some say Pesach is Tuesday, some say Pesach is Wednesday. So some say in Jerusalem, some say Purim is Yudal, some say Purim is Tesvav. We'll get into this Tuesday night.
Remote is outside of Yerushalayim?
Remote is quite far, yeah. There's a nice highway called Goldstein, and there's a space without any houses, without any communities, and therefore many places can hold that it is not part of Jerusalem proper for halachic purposes, and therefore they have to keep Purim on 14th. Also, under machlekes.
What does the Sephardic angle mean when you said you have to give to a friend who's a Sephardi?
I just said before, you have to give Mishloach Manos to someone who's keeping Purim on your day. So if a Sephardi has an Ashkenazi friend and he's going to give Mishloach Manos on the 14th in remote, saying, what are you doing? It's Erev Purim for me. You understand? It's not Purim from you. Some Sephardim. Some Sephardim.
It's the 14th.
Yeah.
The 15th.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. It's a machlekes. Okay, we're not going to get into it. It's maybe Tuesday night we'll get into it. It's more lumdisha than it is practical, especially if we're in Sfas. We're not traveling to Jerusalem. This is more in Jerusalem every year. This is what the Rabbanim deal with every year. They give hours of speeches on this subject, and every single year it goes on anew. Regarding, we said last week that Ramah brings down, and this is the halacha: men sent to men, women sent to women. Men should not be sending to women, and women should not be sending to men, due to a chashash of it can sound like that it's kedushin, and of course another reason is due to tznius reasons that it should be avoided.
And also as a shliach.
So if it's given as a shliach from someone else, then it's not really a problem because it's not coming from you. On the other hand, we can say that the onlooker will have no idea that it's being done through a shliach. He has no idea what's going on. Based on the reason, you can argue that a male shliach should not give to a female. On the other hand, that is a little bit of a chiddush that I have not seen. And what's the idea is that it shouldn't come, a man shouldn't be giving his gifts to the woman, and a woman should be giving her gifts to the man. But if a shliach decides to give it, then maybe we should be machmer to have a mahadran, a delivery service that men deliver to men, woman to woman. What does it have to do with Purim? It's all over the year this halacha would apply. So obviously I think it's a little too far-fetched. It's a good idea, it'll make money if somebody wants to take it upon themselves, but I don't know if it has any halachic basis. Okay. So we're going to stay with that, it's mutter. Shliach is okay, but on behalf of someone else, but not that you shouldn't give on your own. So for example, that's why in Mivtzaim, when we do go, like Chabad goes to army bases and we give out Mishlach Manas to soldiers, we never say that, oh, we're only going to give to the boys and to the males, and the females we're not going to give to, because we're giving it to them for the sake of doing the mitzvah. We're not giving it to them for the sake of our Mishlach Manas. It's not Mishlach Manas for us, for them. We're giving to them so they have something to give the mitzvah to. So, but nonetheless, if it's possible to bring a female woman to do the mitzvah of Purim, that's the best thing. As Rebbe writes, men to men, woman to woman, that would be the best thing to do. Okay, regarding what to send in this Mishlach Manos, so pretty much the sky is the limit. You have a minimum of it's not really, in the classical Paiskim, the Shulchan Aruch, it's not recorded what the minimum is. Bottom line is that we want to make sure it's considered a gift in the eyes of the person, of the receiver. So we want to make sure that it has at least a kazayas of food, and if we're giving drink or revius of drink, yes, you are yaitza with a drink, so you can give wine, you can give Pepsi, you can give whatever you want. Can you give water, a bottle of water? So while I did see recently that some write that it shouldn't be done, but I think that, if you give someone a 6-pack of water, I think that's a nice matana. People buy it in stores, it sells. No? Anyone disagree?
Well,
someone gave him from a Shlach Manas a 6-pack of water. I'll be happy, I would like it.
maybe if it's seltzer.
Only if it's seltzer? No? So I see it depends on the person.
No, but it seems like since you can't.
You have some expensive bottled
You don't-
water.
You don't do Havdalah on water. You can't do
That's something else. That's because we have a din of what's called Chamim Medina. That's something else. Here we don't have such a din in Purim. We don't have such a din by Purim. So yeah, that's why you should be able to give seltzer. Now, again, the fact that they sell water in stores and they charge money, and sometimes you have expensive bottled water, water that came from some fountain in Italy, and they charge it like it's gold, or a special fountain from New York City tap water being sold in other places. People want to touch the water of New York. So if people are machshav it, it's chashav, and you can be yaitz with it as well. But okay, we don't have to get to these pulpulim. Send a bottle of water and 2 of the foods. But again, it should be a kazayas total. For us, we're saying this is not such a big deal question, but anyone doing miftzayim, that they're preparing hundreds of mishlach manas for the varying congregants, etc., or for soldiers, then we want to do the minimum that we're yaitzayim because of expenditure and space, for many different reasons, time, and therefore the minimum that's given is at least a kazayas altogether of the foods. And at least it should be because I have to look at the fruits and reviews for the drink. If there's a drink being said, non-food items you cannot be yaitze with it. It's common to send. Some people send a sefer, some people send a picture. People add different things to Mishlach Manas as a token appreciation or whatever they want to do. That obviously is not yaitze the mitzvah. It's just for an additional present.
Kazayas of each type of food, or kazayas altogether?
L'chatchila, it should be a kazayas of each food, kazayas and revius if it's a drink and food, and 2 foods, 2 kazayisim. But nonetheless, if at the very least, it should be 1 kazayis in total. And some poskim argue, Chayyim rules that if you're sending to someone wealthy, it has to be considered something significant in the eyes of the wealthy. So, yeah. But today, I don't know how much there's a difference in this. Today, everyone eats everything. The billionaire and the person that's poor, they eat the same foods pretty much. They go to the grocery, they buy what they buy. I've never seen a rich person that wouldn't eat the Skittles or any of these things because it's below his standard. They eat candy, they eat nash, they eat everything we eat. That's why regarding laws of Bishul Akum, today we have a big argument to say There's almost no foods anymore that are not Eila Shulchan Malachim. Everything's Eila Shulchan Malachim. When you have the President of the United States eating jelly beans on the table, Ronald Reagan, you know. So, everything's Eila Shulchan Malachim. Everything's Siddur Chashuv today. If you go to India maybe, where they still have, or China, you know, where they have mamash, the food industry, there is the lowest of the low. The people eat cats and rats. So rich people won't eat that. They'll eat real meat. Okay. So there, if you give a wealthy person a cat, there's a lot of money, you know.
Never heard these examples before. Not giving cats this year.
Gee, there's plenty of them running around here. No problem catching.
What about giving pet food? If somebody gave pet food, right? You're not Yitzhak, because it has to be kosher. That's another argument. It has to be
I mean,
kosher.
the idea is to give something that the person is going to receive it with life, right? You wanna bring
If the dog is bar mitzvah, then you should give. You should give mishloach manas. Okay. Fine. Let's close mishloach manas. Any questions before we close the subject?
Asked last week about a tea bag.
Right, so, okay, thank you for bringing it up. So regarding what to send, we mentioned that the gift has to be ready to eat in its current state. A lot of people send coffee, and obviously people don't eat coffee plain. A lot of things people don't eat plain, and obviously requires, the place with hot water. So the argument to say that tea or coffee or anything of the sort which requires further preparation will not be valid is simply because there's an extra step involved here. It's not, you can't just put it in your mouth and enjoy. And the place can explicitly write that raw meat is invalid because of the next step that has to take place. However, we can say that perhaps it's only when there's like a large preparation involved, which is in the case of cooking raw meat. So again, I haven't seen anyone discuss it, but the best thing would be to try to send maybe in addition to these things.
Is it either, you mentioned that it's either to send extra things, not tea bags, but like send a little box of things like people do?
Listen, we said before, the purpose of the mitzvah is to increase friendship and for people to have what to eat during the meal. So obviously the more you send the merrier, just like Chazal said, if you send more to one person, raise him a shubach. So they gave us a minimum cap that everyone must strive for, but we try not to be minimum Jews, so we go above and we send, and that's the minhag. Everyone sends a lot, so in the case of a little thing of coffee or a little thing of tea, I would send something in addition to that. Maybe I'll already make the tea. I'll send in a little thermos with hot tea.
Was there a matter brought up about...
Another example, tradition soup. Somebody who would send a tradition soup. It's not ready to eat raw. So, it takes a further step. Now, even though it's quick, it doesn't matter. It's a further step.
Is there not a point made somewhere that giving more money to poor people do that mitzvah is better than stuffing the
Correct. It is true that Matanos of Ya'inim overrides Mishloach Manos. It's better to give to poor than to give to the rich. That's usually the case in life. Better to help the poor than help the rich, unless you're a government. Okay. Matanos of Ya'inim, right? So the mitzvah of Ya'inim is the exact opposite. Mishloach Manos is 2-1. This is 1-2. We give one gift to 2 paupers. Once again, everyone is obligated in this. Men, women, and children above the age of chinuch should also be educated in this mitzvah. All family members are obligated in this. Once again, going on the Magen Avram's novelty, married women should be given a certain amount of money that is theirs for them to fulfill the mitzvah of Matanos Lev with. Even someone who's defined as a pauper according to halacha is to give matanos, is obligated to matanos avyanim to 2 paupers. Now, who is considered a pauper in this regard? So there are poskim who wanted to novelize based on the term evyanim to say that you're only yaitz if you give it to a beggar, someone who's homeless, doesn't have a home, doesn't have anything to eat. He's mamash and evyain. He goes from door to door, not the ones that do it for a career living. That's what they do for a living. They knock and they collect money. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about people that are mamish, dirt poor, they don't have what to eat. And they go around. Now those people are kind of hard to find today. It's not so easy to find such a v'yanim. Especially you don't know if the guy's honest or not honest. Some of these guys, they stash the cash, as they say. So practically we don't rule this way. The Shulchan explicitly negates this explanation, and in Evyain, indeed, any pauper according to halacha is included. Now, who's considered a pauper according to halacha? So this takes us to Yeridei Hilchos Tzedakah. And there it's explained pretty much in today's terms, anyone who doesn't have enough money to survive, to make it for a regular expenditure of the month, pay rent, pay his mortgage, buy normal foods, he's not going on extravagant vacations to Hawaii, he's not spending it on luxurious stuff, normal living standards, electricity, water, etc.
According to the government, that's 47% of tzvah.
Well, I don't know exactly what the governmental standard of the below the poverty line is, but I'm saying from the halachic standpoint is we look at community standard. So if the standard of a community, we've mentioned this before, that you can argue and say, well, why should you can't give someone tzedakah to help him pay his electricity bill. Not even the wealthiest person 200 years ago had electricity. So was he considered poor because he didn't have electricity? Of course not. So why do I have to give him money to pay his electricity bill? It's not true, because we go by the standard of living. So today the standard of living is to live with electricity and plumbing and all these things. You can't say, well, 200 years ago. Okay, so when you go back in time 200 years ago and you want to give tzedakah, then yes, you should give tzedakah. You shouldn't give tzedakah for someone who wants electricity. But today that's the standard of living. And obviously you can and should give tzedakah to such a person that doesn't have enough money to pay for his monthly expenses. This could be someone who just doesn't make enough money per month, someone who's out of a job, someone who chas v'shalom has medical expenses or other major expenses. Let's say a lawsuit. A lawsuit can drive a person out. Whatever it is that he doesn't have money to pay his monthly expenses, including that he doesn't have savings. A person doesn't have money to pay, this is a big mistake people make. I don't have money to pay my monthly expenses, but I have $200,000 in savings, so who are you fooling? You can't just decide, oh, I want to save that for A, B, and C, so please don't include it, and I don't want to take any money out of that, so it's my monthly expense, I don't have enough, so I can take from tzedakah. That is stealing, that is, God forbid, incorrect. A person who owns a certain amount, the amount of money that is evaluated for a single individual to live a year, and we do that per family member, he cannot receive tzedakah. So a person who has in the bank $50,000, and according to the valuation, $50,000 is enough to support his family for the whole year, the next 12 months, even though right now he's out of a job, he's not suddenly considered a pauper. Now, if he's saving that money for a chasana or to buy a home or something else, that's okay. That's already, you can argue that it's already put aside for a necessary or tzedakah purpose. So, but in general, that's the job of a tzedakah organization, to evaluate and filter who are considered real aniyim and who are not. But if we know of anyone, we don't have to specifically go through an organization. If you know of someone, most people who are this definition of pauper will not receive from tzedakah organization. You have to be mamish desperate to want to actually go to a tzedakah organization and ask for help. Most people don't want to ask for help. So if we have neighbors, friends that we know that don't have enough money to make the month, and they don't have savings, then yes, we should give them a tanas levyanim, and there's a mitzvah. Right, aniyah ircha kaidmin. The priority goes towards the people of your city, even over Jerusalem residents, even over Israel residents. I was asked, someone asked me the other day, I want to give tzedakah money towards Yerushalayim aniyim. I said, well, do all the aniyim in your city have what to live off so far? Everyone's okay, no more aniyim anymore. So if you want to give some tzedakah money, then fine, but you can't give all your tzedakah money to out of seas, out of town. You have the responsibility, a communal responsibility of your hometown. And relatives, of course, right? Relatives also comes for us. Yes, relatives come for everybody. So a person who has a brother, a sister, a son, a daughter, a father, or a mother who is in need, or even a cousin, then they come first. How much do you have to give? Let's come now to the main question. So it missed the boat in the Shulchan Aruch. There is no sum recorded. It doesn't say. The Mishnah Berurah records the Ritva, who writes a very astonishing sum, 1 pruta, 2 cents. So that's almost nothing. Now the pruta has, without getting in a tangent, there's a large discussion on how much the value of a pruta is and how to evaluate it. But bottom line is that b'di'evid, a person can be yotze even with 10 agorot. So if you're doing mass matanas v'yenim iftzayim, you want to be mezaka, you want hundreds of soldiers or people, Jews, to fulfill the mitzvah. So you give them 10 agorot, tell them put in the pushka, and I will distribute it on Purim for you. So that obviously will fill the mitzvah for them, at least on a basic level. But for all of us, we obviously should not be giving out 10 agarot to paupers. We should do the minimum of the second opinion, which is the opinion of the Zer Yaakov recorded in the Kaf Chaim and other Paiskim, that it should be enough money to purchase 165 grams, 3 kibbetzim of food. So if to buy a bakery product of 165 grams costs 5 shekels, so you give 5 shekels, whatever it is. That's the minimum. Of course, the maximum is each to their own. Can you use Meiser money? Past the minimum, you could. So if I want to do like the Zer Yaakov, I'll take out 5 or even 10 shekel, let's say. Right? It'll be machmir. I'll take out 10 shekel for each of the 2 aniyim, and then I want to give out another 20,000 shekel of Meiser money, that's fine. That's not a problem. There is no problem for men to distribute tzedakah to women and women to men. That is not a problem. It's only with matanis, mishlach manis, that we don't give, but tzedakah is permitted to give. Once again, here too, we need to be careful that a 15ther gives to a 15ther, a 14ther to a 14ther, and therefore there are many organizations that collect tzedakah for Aniyah Eretz Yisrael, especially in Yerushalayim. And you must tell them, I can only give, I want this tzedakah distributed to someone who's keeping Purim on the same day as me. In Meitar, every year there's a person who would come from remote to collect matanas l'Avyanim. And he would say, Boy Bayoim, he's distributing it today. Who are you distributing it today? Today is not Purim by you. Today is not Purim by you, so nobody's Yaitse. You're giving it to people in remote. Unless you give it to Sfardim, but we hold that the Sfardim should be keeping the 15th, so we hold it not Yaitse. So it's a big balagan that told them, let us say what you're saying. People should be told, in addition to giving to you, they should give to someone else as well. You shouldn't be counted as one of the 2 paupers.
Preferable time like after Shachris would get.
Once again, after Shachris, even though the Magen does not mention Matanas L'Avyanim in his Shechianu in Kavanas, it doesn't hurt, right? No one gets injured by having in mind an extra word, Matanas L'Avyanim, when Shechianu is said. You can include it. Some places can say you should include it. So the best thing is you give it out. But if there's an ani present before davening, I said, nope, Shechianu first. I can't give you tzedakah. No, give him tzedakah. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about the Shechianu. Better to be machmir in the mitzvah of tzedakah than to be machmir in the mitzvah of Shechianu.
Is it called if you give it before?
Technically, yes. If you give tzedakah to someone, unless you used your Meiser money. If I have a whole wad of cash of Meiser money that I decide to give today, and another wad of cash of Matanas L'Avyanim and non-Meiser money, then depends which pocket I took from, right?
If you suspect that someone is not doing well, is poor, is it ever insulting to give something to someone money? If you know what I mean?
Is it insulting?
Yeah.
Listen, insulting or not insulting, most people who need to make ends meet for the month, they'll be more than happy that they got something. Insulting or not, they need to pay bills. And if they are insulted, then it's a sign they're not a pauper. Okay, in the event you're stuck, you can't find any Avyanim in your city, you don't know any paupers, you don't know. You're not aware. You don't know. We don't. Not everyone's publicizing. Hey guys, I don't make my bills. Not everyone's publicizing that. We don't know. So in such a situation, what you do is the Shulchan Aruch writes that you keep the money, save the money for another date until a pauper is found. But the truth is, today we don't have to resort to this because today we have what's called a credit card, with which we can just swipe the card or put in the number over the phone, over the internet, whatever it is, to the organizations who deliver the money on Purim itself. So even if you couldn't find here, go online or take a phone call the organization in a different city, give them your credit card number, and they will charge. Even though you can argue, well, it's the credit card paying the money, not me. I'm only paying the credit card the money much later on. nonetheless, that is considered a halva. All money that we get, that our credit card company pays for us, they're not doing us any favors. This is business. It's not favors. What they're doing is they're giving us money, that's our money, that we have to pay them back. And that's why if we don't pay them back, we all know what happens after the month, and that's why credit card companies are in business. So that's our money. A recipient of Matanas Sevyanim may use the money for whatever he chooses. There are no limitations. There is no list of what he can use it for. He can use it for whatever he wants. It doesn't have to be used specifically for paying for electricity or buying food for Purim. The Mechaber writes in the end of Tafresh Sadik Dalid that whoever opens his hand to ask for money on Purim, we give to him. We don't, meaning that even though during the year we may ignore, or we may, ask, who are you? What are you collecting for? On Purim, we just give out to whoever asks. And this is based on the ruling of the Arizal. This is not a halach in the Talmud. It's based on the Arizal and Shara Kavanis, that on Purim we're not particular. And the reason for that is because when we show God that we're not particular, when we ask God for things, God's not particular with us. Because the same way, if we're particular with someone else and start questioning and interrogating, what would happen if we ask God for something and he starts interrogating us? How have you been behaving? Do you deserve this? Right? We know the answers to the questions may not be as worthy of being a recipient. So therefore, we try to arouse the idea of Hashem giving all of us, and that's why it's actually brought down in the tradition of the Baal Shem Tov, that Purim is a great segula. The day of Purim is a great segula for requesting matters from Hashem and increase in prayer and supplication. And in this it says, all that spread open their hands are to be given. And in Purim, Hashem answers the questions of Hashem answers the requests of all those who pray to him. The Mechaber writes that even a guy who opens his hand should be given money if they request in an area that is the custom, and that is the minhag. But that's generally the rule in Hilchos Tzedakah, that if a guy asks us for tzedakah, we try not to offend them due to derech eretz, darkei shalom, and we distribute also to guy. Okay, we're up to one of our favorite. Any questions on Matanas Savyanim? We went through so from Shalach Savyanim. We're on our third mitzvah, the Purim feast, one of the favorite mitzvahs, right? Purim Suda. Okay, so one of the four mitzvahs of Purim, right, is to have the Purim Suda. This is actually viewed as a very interesting halacha regarding the Suda and its level of obligation, in which it is recorded. The Mechaber, this is the wording of in the Mechaber in the Shulchan Aruch in 695, that the mitzvah is a biblical command. Now, where in the Torah, open up the Chumash, you won't find anywhere that it says have a meal on Purim, right? So how is it a biblical command? So he says, as rejoicing on Purim is from the words of Scripture, which has the same power as the words of Torah. It's written in Tanakh, Ksuvim, right? Megillah. The Megillah is part of Ksuvim. So it's considered like it's part of the Torah, Divrei Kabbalah. To such an extent, do we consider this considered like a biblical command, that we rule that an Einain, Chas v'Shalom, an individual who a relative of his has passed away near Purim time, and the burial has yet to take place, he has the status in the Halacha of Aninus, which exempts him from fulfilling all mitzvahs, as well as prohibits him from eating meat and drinking wine. Rules the Mechaber that since the mitzvah of eating meat and drinking wine and celebrating on Purim is likened to a biblical command, to a biblical status, therefore he is to eat meat and drink wine, even in a state of aninus, even before the burial.
The other mitzvahs are also from the Megillah, so they're also like this?
Correct. Well, we only find the terminology of like a biblical command in the Shulchan Aruch regarding the Purim feast. Maybe that's why everyone's mekayim with such hiddur, that he gets so drunk, and adi l'yada, aside that could be a fun mitzvah, but people are very mahadir in it.
The whole question of aninus, this is a little bit off topic, but it's a quick question. If the kura hasn't taken place, but all the preparations have taken place, if the person's still considered an identity and he's on different mitzvahs, whatever.
You should be getting my volume 1 of the Laws of Mourning, chapter 3, Halacha 5. Look there. It's discussed a month. It's 3 opinions. Okay? That's not a simple answer. That's a full share word. Getting back to what we're saying, so first of number 1, this emphasizes of the importance when we get to the menu of eating meat and drinking wine, to the point we're saying even an einin is permitted. Even though there's no actual chiv that it says you must eat meat during the Purim Seudah. When we say meat, we mean basar, not fowl, not birds, okay? Actual meat, sheep, lamb, goats, cows, whatever works for you, but domestic animal meat. So even though we're saying that an einin is allowed to eat that, and Purim, and we disregard the prohibition of aninas, that doesn't mean you have an obligation. But nonetheless, one who does so, they do fulfill a mitzvah. They do fulfill the mitzvah of Sudas Purim, which is likened to a biblical command. That's why it is the best thing to have actual meat if you're able to for the Purim Seudah. And of course, wine should be one of the preferable beverages, as we'll get to Adul Yada. That should be the preferable beverage. When Achashverosh got drunk and killed Vashti, he didn't drink vodka and he didn't drink Smyrna, he didn't drink Crown Royal, whiskey. He had wine, plain old wine.
So is the Suda tikkun for the Achashverosh feast?
Depends how the outcome of your Suda is. It can either be a tikkun or it can either be a repeat, right? Anyways. That's what we'll get to the getting drunk part later on. Getting back though, do we find any other of the mitzvahs likened to a biblical command? So the answer is that the poskim do write something very interesting, and this is important for all Mitzvayim goers to know, all those who will be reading Megillah on behalf of others to know, and that is that we've discussed this in the past, for whatever reason, not very popular and well-known halacha, but that doesn't change the halacha. And the halacha is that by biblical commands, you cannot be mighty someone else the mitzvah unless you are, of course, the age of mitzvahs, 13 years old, as well as have proof, I have identification that you have indeed reached the years of puberty, which is, basically unless you're 18 or have a beard, you haven't reached that stage yet, because no one's testifying on someone and how he looks, without clothing. So the only way to know is if he's 18 years old or if he has a beard. So anyone who's under 18 years old and is beardless, no facial hair yet, or doesn't have a full beard of facial hair, even if he has a little bit, he cannot fulfill biblical mitzvahs on behalf of other people. We discussed this in the past. By Megillah reading, Megillah is rabbinical, so we should rule cheskas the Rava that it's mutter. However, the poskim say that since Purim is likened to a biblical command, we will apply the biblical stringency that the boy must be over 18 years old or have a full beard to be mitzi others. Practically, that's how we rule chatchila during daytime. Nighttime it's okay, but during daytime with the main Megillah reading, because it's likened to a biblical command, as the Mechaber writes here regarding the Seudah, when we're discussing a choice of Megillah readers, we should specifically choose someone who's over 18 years old or has a full-grown beard to read the Megillah. So if a bacher is 15, he knows how to read beautiful, he wants to lane for the shul, chas v'shalom, they shouldn't let him. Because the Chatchila were machmer to not consider him a full-fledged adult. By night reading, okay, we can be lenient, but definitely by day reading, we should get a full-fledged adult. However, if that's all that's available, better than nothing, right? So it's mutter, especially that it's mainly derabanan. So you can even say it with a bracha, and everyone's yaitse b'diavad.
The day reading is more central?
Yes, the day reading is the main mitzvah according to everyone. Yeah. Okay, so how many meals do you have to eat? So the Chamim established a single meal to be eaten during Purim day. All the mitzvahs had to be filled during Purim day. However, it is written in the Shulchan Aruch, the Rama writes, that one should as well eat a festive meal at nighttime. One should increase festivities also during the nighttime, even though one does not fulfill his obligation. And so everyone should come home. Well, let's not forget it's also a fast day, in everywhere in the world except for Jerusalem, Erev Purim, and therefore we're fasting, so we would expect a meal. Everyone should have a festive meal at home awaiting them after Megillah reading this Wednesday night, or in Jerusalem this Thursday night, to fulfill this ruling of the Ramah, to have a celebration, a slight celebration also by nighttime.
Jerusalem fast on the same day we all fast?
Yeah, we all fast the same day of Yud Gimel Adar, but obviously the celebration changes based on walled city versus non-walled city. Some poskim rule that the minhag of eating zar oinim, which is like grains and legumes, applies specifically to the night meal. So it's good to have a little bowl of hummus and some tchina, a nice Middle Eastern delicacy, dips. That fulfills the zar oinim, because that was eaten by the meal. So it's brought down that one should have that during his Purim meal, and some say it's specifically eaten by the night meal, not the day meal. So that's a good thing to have during the night meal. It's recorded in the Ramah that prior to commencing the meal during the day, one should learn some words of Torah, and the reason that's recorded in the Darkei Moshe is that the words of Torah that precede the meal will help protect that the alcohol goes into the right neshama, into the right soul. Right? It's recorded in Chabad Svarim, Sefer HaSichos of the Rabbi Rayatz, that during Purim is a Yom Segula, is an auspicious day that one can sing the nigun of Dalet Bavis of the Alter Rebbe. So during Purim Fabregans, they would sing Dalet Bavis, as well as the Shpala Zayda's nigun was also sung often on Purim, and the nigun of Hab Chazak and the nigun of Kol Bayar. So there's a special connection with the Shpala Zayda also on Purim that we would sing. For all Jerusalemites that are celebrating Purim on Friday, and for all those who plan on joining them, as well as for Tzfas residents, who I guess we'll mention this now, quite important, who we all do a suffix Purim on the second day. So let's just clarify that right now. Right here in Tzfas, because there is a doubt as whether it is considered a Mukaf Chayma, a place that was surrounded by walls, or that Tiveria is considered a suffix, as the Gemara brings, because of the sea, and it had walls, so maybe Tiveria is supposed to celebrate on the 15th, and we can see Tiveria, so we should also celebrate on the 15th, as if you can see the city, you're also considered part of that city. So because of all these things, bottom line is that the more recent custom, when I say recent, I mean a Rizal time and onwards, that's about 500 years, is to, for Tzfas residents, to celebrate Purim 2 days. This wasn't widespread everywhere. Many people would only keep Yudalid. And till today, I think the Litvish community only keeps Yudalid, if I'm not mistaken. Can anyone correct me on that? Do all Jews do Megillah reading on Tesvav? No one knows. No one knows, huh? The main day is, of course, Yudalid. That's the rule. Whenever there's a suffix city, we have a whole list of suffix cities, the main day is Yudalid, and the reason is very simple. The reason is because everyone agrees that if a Tesvavnik read Megillah on Yudalid, he fulfills his obligation. It's just initially we give him a day of Purim on the next day. But the Evid, if you read Megillah of Yudalid, he fulfills his obligation, says Yerushalmi. So therefore, when we're in doubt, which day should we pick? Yudalid, as the whole world is doing Yudalid. And a person fulfills his obligation with the Evid. So the main day is Yudalid like everyone else. However, since we're a place of suffix, therefore here in Tzfas, especially if you're in the old city, if you're living in the outskirts, Canaan and all the other outskirts, so that's already, even though you do see the Tiveria, but you don't really have a wall. There's no remnants of walls surrounding Givat Shoshana neighborhood, right? Okay. I mean, there's a modern wall they put up a few years ago, for construction, but nothing real, so that wouldn't count. But we definitely do have remnants of the old city of walls and everything, and plus, as I said before, we see the Kinneret, so meaning we see Tiveria. So all this would enter us into a suffix, and therefore the following we do. We hear Megillah, the first day of Purim is like everyone else, the second day of Purim, meaning starting from the night, Thursday night this week, which is the Matzei Yodalid, we hear Megillah again without a blessing. We can't say a blessing, Safek Brachas Lahakil. Also the next day without a blessing, we hear it. And we have Du Mishloach Manos, Matanos Laveid, right? We do the mitzvahs again. Here you can just do the basics. You give 2 presents to one individual Shloach Manos, you give 2 Matanos to 2 Aniyim, 1 to each for Matanos Laveid. And you have a Su'udah. This is where I want to get to. So what time should you have your Purim Su'udah? Which, by the way, by Chassidim, as the Munkacher writes in the Mukher Chaim, the custom always was that the main Purim Su'udah was on Shushan Purim. They were so busy Purim with all the mitzvahs and Iftzayim and all these different things that, yeah, you're right. So the minhag was that the main Purim Suda was Shushan Purim. Shushan Purim was bigger than Purim. Was bigger than the Purim Suda.
For 14th even, obviously.
Even for 14thers, yeah.
Obviously.
Yes. Now, even though it says in Shulchan Aruch that on Shushan Purim you're supposed to increase in a meal, but he was saying that the custom became to really have the main meal then. And so bottom line, especially here in Tzfas, we're keeping a second day out of doubt. So certainly we would increase in the meal of having not just a regular breakfast, but a nice, festive meal. But it's Erev Shabbos. So what do we do? So because it's Erev Shabbos, and let's get back to our Jerusalemites, who this is their Purim. This is their day of Purim. It's not just Shushan Purim, it's not just Suffolk Purim. So the Chatchila, they are all to have their meal, at least start their meal before Chatzais in the morning. So writes the Mishnah Berurah. The next stop of time is before the 10th hour of the day. They should have their meal before the 10th hour of the day, sutu by us. We should have our Shushan Purim meal or our Suffolk Purim Tesvav meal before midday. If that's not possible, we should at least have it before the 10th hour of the day, which is 3 Zmanius hours before sunset. So let's say sunset nowadays is about 5:50, so we should be done approximately before 3:30, give or take. Okay? We should start our meal, yes. Now, push comes to shove, especially in Jerusalem. That's the main day. You're doing Mishlach Manas, all the mitzvahs. By the time you come home for the Miftzayim, by the time you come home to start your meal, it's past the 3rd hour before Shkia. They may nonetheless have the meal because we don't say push away one mitzvah for the sake of another mitzvah. Push away the mitzvah of Sudas Purim for the sake of the mitzvah of Sudas Shabbos. They're both a mitzvah. I'm going to fulfill the mitzvah I have available now, and we'll see what happens tonight. So what do many people do? Many Anayig in Yerushalayim to do what's called Peres Mapil Makadish, that before they start their meal, whatever time it is, some start half hour before Shkia, some start 10 minutes before Shkia. They start their Purim meal, and as soon as it's Shkia, they right away make Kiddush. They cover, they bring 2 challahs, they cover the challahs, they make Kiddush, and they then go ahead and they make Kiddush and they continue their meal afterwards.
Before Mincha? No,
Mincha? When do they daven Mincha, you're asking?
normally we would do it after.
Before, after, I don't know, whenever they daven Mincha.
This Friday starts daylight savings time.
Here in Israel?
Yeah.
What time? You mean Thursday night or Friday night?
2 a.m.
2 a.m. Friday night?
Well, Friday.
Thursday night.
Thursday, yeah.
Okay, Thursday night,
After
okay.
Thursday night.
So they're doing, oh wow, how does that mess things up? Oh, so we get an extra hour.
We get
We're losing now.
Bring it forward.
We're losing
Oh,
now.
you're losing now.
We're losing now. So,
You get an extra
what do you mean?
hour of daylight.
No, one second. We get an extra hour of Shkia. So Shkia is not going to be at 6, it's going to be at 7.
Yeah.
So we do get an extra hour. Depends how you look at it. We get an extra hour of daylight, right?
Yes.
Right, that's why it's called savings, daylight savings time. Right? We're saving, right? So, okay, whatever, it doesn't matter. Whatever the time is, you get 3 hours before. And so let's update what I just said to the 3 hours would be, I guess, at 4:20, 4:30. You should start your meal. If you didn't, then at the very least, it should be done. No, I'm sorry. No, 3:30 would be. If Shkia is at 6, then we said before 3 hours would be okay. It's about 4 o'clock. About 4 o'clock, before 4 o'clock, you start your Milchatchila. If you couldn't, you can start afterwards. And those are the Pers Map. Do a Pers Map is, I have instructions here how to do it exactly. It's a lot of different halachas involved, and in the big machlekes, you have to say Beri Pei Gafen on the wine. There's all these different machlekes involved. The best thing is not to do it, to bench before Shkia. And then after Shkia, you want to make Kiddush again. You want to start another meal for the nighttime, do it again, no problem. But the best thing is you to bench before Shkia, go to Shul, daven Ma'ariv, and then have your regular, or take a little break of some time.
Get mincha in sometime earlier in the day. Get mincha in, like people daven early mincha sometimes on Shabbat, Erev Shabbat.
Right, okay, so yeah, 100%, we should all daven, those in Jerusalem daven early mincha. The story with the Rebbe Yatz and Yaakov Landau in the times of the Rebbe Rashab, that this was Simchas Torah, and they wanted to do Peres Mapeh. It was Simchas Torah Erev Shabbos. They wanted to do Peres Mapeh to enter the Simchas Torah meal into Shabbos, and the Rebbe Rayatz was very against it, like was the Rebbe Rashab, wasn't so fond of it. But Rav Yaakov Landau wanted to do it, and the Rabbi hid all the wine, so they wouldn't be able to make Kiddush. But Rabbi Yaakov was very, it says there in the Sikh, he was very stubborn, and he went looking for like an hour, and he finally came back with wine on his own. And they made Kiddush, and he was upset. The Rabbi Shab told him, don't worry about it. In any event, okay, we will continue Mirz Hashem. On Tuesday, we will finish Sudas Purim, Adul Yoda, and of course, we're going to hit all the Megillah reading laws that we need to know, so important. And get your book. Whoever doesn't have one yet, this was created not for the showcase, for you to learn. This is the user-friendly for everyone to brush up on their Purim halachas. And when the Shaila comes up, you don't have to call up your rabbi. You can just open up the book and read.